everyone. It is Catherine at Resin Safety. So glad you could join me here this evening live on Facebook. I will be taking your questions about resin. And I'm still having some issues with my phone. I'm trying to broadcast here live on Instagram as well. So bear with me a minute while we'll just kind of chit-chat for a minute while I get this hopefully under control here in a minute or two. And anyway, I hope all is well with everyone. I hope you're having a good fall and you're having a good time casting resin. I know it's a busy time for a lot of you. You like making your own decorations. You've got some shows coming up, and I know that's pretty cool, and I wish you the best of luck with everything. So anyway, I hope to see everyone on here. I'm still let's see, I'm still having some challenges getting on Instagram this evening. Oh, that's too bad. Anyway, I'm hoping everyone can hang out here till the end. If you do, I do have something kind of fun, something good to share with you this evening. So let me try here again. So why is everything being a little crabby? I hate this, right? The wonders of technology. I can come to you from my office, but unfortunately, I'm having issues getting on Instagram this evening. This is awful. So, okay, bear with me just like 30 more seconds, and we'll see if we can't get this going here. So let's try this again. In the meantime, why doesn't everybody tell me where you're from? Hi, Kathleen. Good to see you. I'm hoping to see a few more people here this evening. Let's see. Okay, it says my phone is on the Wi-Fi. Let me try this again. So, okay. So I see a question coming in already. Hang tight. Hold on just for a few minutes. I want to try and make sure we can get some of my Instagram fans on here as well, because I know a few of them were getting there. Oh, hey, Instagram. Okay, now we're cooking. All right, Instagram, so good to see you this evening. I'm on Instagram on my phone. I'm on Facebook Live on my desktop or my laptop, and so I'm going to be talking to both of you here this evening. I'm here this evening to answer your resin questions, and I'm looking forward to maybe giving you some last-minute help for some of your holiday projects. Oh, goodness, I see Samantha from Australia. This is pretty exciting. So anyway, for those of you who jumped on a little late, my name is Catherine. I'm the Chief Resinista, Creative Director, and all that here at Resin Obsession. And if you haven't already, be sure to follow us on Resin Obsession on Instagram and Pinterest. We share some really cool stuff and try and inspire you with your projects. I am here until 9 o'clock this evening, so the next 27 minutes. I hope you guys will stay tuned and stay on. If you stay till the end, I do have something kind of special to share with you this evening. So, all right, before we jump into your questions, I did get some, for some people who couldn't make it here this evening, they did email some questions ahead of time, so I'm going to try and cover those as well. But I want to take a few minutes to talk about something that's very important and very boring, and that is resin safety. Right? I totally get it. Nobody likes talking resin safety. I understand it's really boring, but it's really, really important. So I want to take a couple of minutes to kind of make sure that you guys are using resin and using it in such a way that you can use it for many years to come, because I want to make sure you guys can enjoy resin and everything it can do for you for a very long time. So I know this is kind of boring, and I'm going to try and get through it as quickly as I can, but in terms of a lot of the questions I get asked, a lot of them are resin safety questions. So I just want to talk a couple of minutes about resin safety. Okay, so first and foremost, what I would tell you at a minimum that you need if you're going to work with resin is you need gloves, which I don't have any here this evening. You need gloves, and you need adequate ventilation, okay? My recommendation for gloves, I like to wear nitrile gloves. We sell them in our store. Couple reasons I like nitrile. Number one is that it's least likely to react with your hands, so especially for those of you who have a latex allergy, nitrile is a good choice. And believe it or not, latex gloves can also be a little crabby sometimes with the resins you're working, especially if you're talking silicone. Some silicone resins will not cure in the presence of latex. So that's another good reason to use nitrile gloves. Now, here's the question I also get asked a lot when I say, well, you need adequate ventilation. Well, what's adequate? Okay, so for those of you who don't know, I'm located here in Florida, and so I have the distinct advantage of being able to open the window for much of the year to get some fresh air in, and I don't have to worry about my room or my area getting too cold for my resin to cure, which is totally awesome. I understand many of you don't have that luxury. So I'm going to show you a couple little things that I also use in my studio for the days that, you know, believe it or not, it does get a little cool sometimes, and so I can't open the window. So here's a couple things that I like to use. So number one, this is just, it's a little, you can see it's a little mini exhaust fan. And what this does is this isn't meant to blow air. It's meant to suck the air away from wherever you're working. And you can see it's a small fan, so this is great for those of you who are working small scale crafts and that kind of thing. And so this is nice. So like if my crafting table is here, I'll put this fan on the end of where I'm working to just kind of suck the fumes away. Now, I fully admit that the fumes in general don't really bother me. I don't know that, at least to me, assuming we're talking epoxy resin here, I don't know that they bother me any worse than fingernail polish, but I know some of you are really sensitive, and so this is one of the things I use. And then the other thing that I will do at the same time is then I will have another fan, like also just a small fan, and I might have it like set off to the side so it's blowing fresh air on my face, not over your projects, because you don't want to risk getting dust settling on the top of your resin. So I'll have the two fans set up, and I'll have this one blowing some fresh air on me. And you know what, if you can stand it and you've got it, I would tell you a bigger fan somewhere in the room, kind of away from you, that maybe is helping the air circulate. So it's not blowing the air on you, and hopefully it's not going to freeze you out, you know, when it's 40 degrees outside and you already got 3 sweaters on. But, you know, just something to kind of keep the air moving, and so that way, you know, maybe the fumes just aren't lingering in your work area, and you can feel a little better about what you're doing. So now, for those resins that require a respirator, or if you like using a respirator, and I will tell you that I use a respirator when I work polyester resin because this stuff smells so bad. This is what I have, okay? Now, I'm going to put it up to my face for a minute just so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So let's pretend I'm a flight attendant for a minute. You put it over your head, and okay, so it's right up here tight to your face. This is a NIOSH, N-I-O-S-H approved respirator, and I have no idea what NIOSH means. These are cartridges for fumes. That's pretty important because they make them for particles and they make them for other things as well. And so you want the cartridges for fumes. Here's how you'll know if you've got a mask with a good fit. When it's up tight on your face like this, and you put your hands over the cartridges and then try and inhale, you should literally be sucking your hand through the cartridge. If you feel air at all leaking or coming in around your piece here, oh look, oh Kathleen, the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Hazards, I'm guessing. Thank you. Thank you. So anyway, so if you feel air leaking in around here, then you've got the wrong size respirator. You've got one a little big, or you need to adjust your straps or something like that. When you get these cartridges, they're not good forever. And so you'll find out how many hours they're good for. When you're done with your respirator, put it in a plastic bag, seal the top, and then you want to include a note on how long you used your respirator today. And that's because you only have so many hours to use these. And so if you don't, all of a sudden you'll be using it, and it'll be months later, and you're like, wonder how many hours I've used this. So write yourself a note, and then also know as well, like I need new cartridges for this. At some point it expires anyway. So even if you only use it for like an hour today and you put it in a drawer and don't use it for the next 4 years, the cartridges still aren't considered good when you get ready to use it. So you're probably wondering, how do you know when how do you know when you need to use one of these? Well, first of all, you're never going to go wrong using one of these. If the fumes bother you that badly and you want to use one, go ahead and use it. The other way you're going to know too is with the product that you're using, they should mention it in the safety data sheet. They will actually say, the information will say NIOSH approved respirator for fumes, blah, 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 that kind of thing. And I will tell you as a little side note, just because you don't smell fumes doesn't mean they don't exist, okay? So don't think that because you open the cap and you're like, I don't smell anything weird, doesn't mean that fumes aren't there. If the safety data sheet recommends it, then you should go ahead and use it, okay? All right, so that's just a little bit here on my safety stuff. I will also tell you in general, you should always, 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 always make yourself familiar with the safety data sheets of the products you are using, okay? Don't take my word for it. Don't take anybody's word for it. I don't care, whatever, even if you're not using our resin or our products or anything, please, please, please ask for the safety data sheet of the products that you're using. And if the company can't provide them or they're a little, they kind of are hesitant about it, then you probably should not be using their products, okay? We're not trying to, the safety data sheets contains information to make sure you stay safe. So please, take advantage of that information. Okay, all right, so the last thing about safety, and it's not necessarily a safety thing, but the last thing I will mention is, what do you do when you want to dispose of product? Okay. So I don't have any empty bottles here tonight, but I do have a water bottle. So what I like to do if my containers are empty is I will then switch the cap. So I'll put the resin cap on the hardener cap on the resin, close it tight, give it a couple of hours and everything's all sealed shut, and then I will throw them away in my trash, okay? If you have cured resin, fully cured, it's not sticky, it's not gooey, that can go in the trash as well. If you have resin that's still in a bottle, or hardener for that matter, that's still in a bottle, and you don't want to use it anymore, you're over it, I don't like this, I'm moving, I can't take it with me, then you will want to take those products to your local waste collection center, specifically for hazardous materials products. It's not necessarily that what you've got is hazardous, but with most all of these products, we worry about them contaminating water supply. And so if you take them to one of those drop-off locations and usually they'll ask you what it is, then that facility will be able to handle the product carefully to make sure that the water supply isn't contaminated. So, okay. All right, so anyway, so I see a few of you joining in and asking some questions. And if you're on Facebook Live and you missed it or you want to come back, Kathleen mentioned what NIOSH stands for and all that. So, okay, so let's start working through and start taking your questions. And I'll go ahead and start with Kathleen. She asked about printing on inkjet or printing inkjet images, and she's only found one paper that works with resin without bleeding or water staining, and you would like other options. So Kathleen, I hear you. I have never had good luck using inkjet printed papers and resin. So let me put that question up here so everybody can see it. So the problem that I just, even with sealing, I would agree. I don't know that you still get a really great image. So what I did is I switched to a color laser jet printer, which is so much more expensive. I mean, you can get an inkjet printer for 50 or 100 bucks. Several years ago, probably it's been maybe 5-10 years ago, I bought a laser jet color printer, and I've really been so much happier since. It prints out the images, they're nice and crisp. You still have to seal them with a Mod Podge, and so that might be able to help you. Your other option, if you want to stick with inkjet, is try something called Tiger, T-Y-G-E-R paper. It's I say in air quotes, waterproof paper. Somehow it's able to print on there, but then it doesn't take up moisture like some of the other papers do. I'm not quite sure how it works, but you can try some Tiger paper. Sometimes copy stores will have Tiger paper so that you can get some of your images printed on a couple of sheets, so that way you don't have to buy a whole pack. You could also ask that copy store if they'll print your stuff with a laser jet printer. It might be easier for you that way. So, but that would be a couple of my suggestions. So, Okay, awesome. All right, so thanks everyone for joining in. Can you believe it? We are already halfway through the broadcast. Boy, I can talk a lot, can't I? So hang in there. I'm here for another 15 minutes, taking your questions, and hang in till the very end because I've got something good to share with you. So, okay, all right, and I'm seeing all kinds of other people joining in from all around the world. So thanks so much. I'm going to look at a few of my other questions that I've got here. So somebody asked, or somebody emailed me earlier today, I'm new in the world of resin and would like to be able to change a mold from a matte finish to a shiny finish. And then there's the second part to this question. So changing the finish on a mold, once it's already been produced, unfortunately, it's just not something you can do. What happens is when a mold is made, whatever is used as the template to make the mold from, that finish imparts onto the mold. And so especially if you're talking silicone molds, I know everybody, I guess a common misunderstanding out there, or misconception is that if it's made from silicone, it's always going to be shiny, and that is not the case. It's whatever the surface of the template is that imprints onto the mold. And so if it's made from sandpaper, it's going to have a sandpaper finish. So unfortunately, there's no way to change the finish on the mold. And then the second part of that is if you can't change it, then what can you do to bring the castings back to shiny? So the cool thing is we actually have a video on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Resin Obsession. And then, the great thing about that is that we show in the video 6 different ways to get a shiny finish back on your resin castings. When I'm done here with the video, I'll see if I can't go back and put some links up here because I know you guys are going to be asking. But it shows 6 different methods. Shows which ones I like the best, and it also gives some of you who are outside the United States some different options on how to get a shiny finish because, excuse me, unfortunately one of the products that I use, I can't ship outside the United States, so. Anyway, so, okay. All right, and I'm seeing all kinds of nice comments. Thanks, Tink's Fairy Workshop on Instagram. It's very kind of you. Thank you. I'm so glad that everyone's having a good time this evening and learning a little bit. So anyway, so I'm watching your comments and stuff come through. So if you've got a question, by all means, please ask it. And I'm going to continue with some of the other questions that got emailed to me earlier today. Okay, so somebody wants to know if they can put fresh flowers in resin to make jewelry. So, flowers in resin make beautiful jewelry. Fresh flowers in resin, unfortunately, do not work in resin. And what happens is the flowers will die. So you'll put them in today. They'll look great for, I don't know, a few days, a week, maybe a couple of weeks, and then all of a sudden they'll start to turn brown. And so if you're going to use flowers in resin, they need to be properly dried and sealed before you include them in your resin projects. And we've got a few articles on our blog as well that show you how to do that. It is challenging. I know it'd be great if there's a way we could do fresh flowers in resin, but unfortunately we can't. And then I see, so Tink's Fairy Workshop, God bless her, she's in the UK and has insomnia, so she's up learning how to do stuff with resin. That's really cool. Thanks for joining me. Okay. All right, so let's see about some other questions. So somebody wanted to know, is it possible to simply coat items in resin so that they retain their original shape, like for example a rosebud, or must they always be in a mold? Specifically, this person wanted to know if you could take something and dip it in resin. So no, you do not have to put something in a mold in order to encase it in resin. However, that dipping in and of itself brings up some challenges. So if you haven't worked with resin before, even if you have, it's almost like, you know, you take, like if you were to take, like what do I have here on my desk? Like, okay, so I have a highlighter. If you dip it in resin, or you know, imagine it's syrup or honey or something. I mean, there's going to be some surface tension to keep it on this, but it's going to want to drip off the bottom. And that's what happens when you try and dip something in resin, is you can't necessarily make it stop. Back here earlier this summer, I took a stainless steel tumbler and coated it in resin, and I know a lot of you guys like to do that. And so, you know, basically the tumbler had to stay rotating the whole time, or what I did is for the first hour, every 5 minutes for the first hour, you know, I would flip it over because the resin wants to drip. And so basically you have to keep doing that until the resin starts to cure, till it starts to hit that gel stage. And so, so it's not that it can't be done, but it can be a little tedious. So if you're willing to babysit your projects and you know, you want to dip it in and you know, make adjustments over the next, you know, hour or two, depending on what kind of resin you're using, as necessary, by all means. I mean, that's not a, I mean, it's not impossible. It just can be a little tedious. So, okay. I see a note here from Jennifer. I'd love to see a tutorial one day about using flames to pop bubbles. The times I've seen people do it in videos, I can't get my head around the technique versus the dangers. So Jennifer, that's a really great point. I am one of these people who I like to use a heat gun. You know, fire, a good healthy fear of fire is not a bad thing. You know, what I probably more worry about anything with using a flame around resin is, like, especially if you're resin painting, if you're using something that's flammable and, you know, so something flashes up at you, or even if you're talking about using a plastic mold, you know, and you get your flame a little too close and you melt your mold. Although that's not to say that I haven't worked a couple using a heat gun, but yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I am one of these that I like to use a heat gun because, you know, a flame, especially if you're enclosed and you don't necessarily have a real fire safe area, then yeah, a heat gun is probably a better option. So, okay, so Samantha wants to know, do you know of a resin that can be used to coat a round bead? The resin I use drips off. Okay, and Samantha is using ice resin. So Samantha, ice resin is a good choice. It is a doming resin. It's a clear resin. I think it probably relates more to what I just talked about, with the fact that the resin wants to drip. So you can coat the bead with it. You probably you need to rotate your bead fairly frequently to make sure that it evens out. You know, for some of these people that I see do resin tumblers, or, you know, coat their tumblers with resin, they've got it on almost like a spit, like, you know, they're barbecuing something, and the cup just slowly turns the whole time. Honestly, if you are interested in doing a bunch of resin beads, that's probably what you need to do, is somehow get it so it slowly rotates the entire time, or at least for the first few hours, until your resin starts to gel enough that it's just not going to move anymore. So, okay. All right, so let's see, what other questions can we talk about? So someone asked or emailed me earlier today. I was wondering if you can use a doming resin as a main resin, as this dries more quickly, enabling more pieces to be ready sooner. Okay, so how quickly a resin dries or cures is kind of irrespective of whether or not it's a doming resin. So if you want a resin that's going to cure faster, then you need to look for a resin that cures faster. For example, all the resins we sell at resinobsession.com, I have it's included in our FAQ section. I've got a PDF of all the resins we sell and their breakdowns on minimum amount to mix, maximum amount to mix, their cure times, their best uses, pot times, and all kinds of stuff. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a doming resin in order to get a faster cure. So, and that's something that I realize, you know, everybody needs something a little different. You know, some of you, you know, like in this case, you know, she wants a faster curing resin so she can churn out more pieces. Whereas I know for some of you, especially when you get started, all of a sudden that pot time is totally crept up on you. Things are starting to gel. And you're like, oh my gosh, I totally need more time to get this done. So, yeah, so at this point, I would tell you just to just do a little more investigating, and I'll try and include a link of with the article with the PDF of the ones we sell and how they break down and all that kind of thing. So, okay, all right. So it looks like I got time for maybe one more question before we do stuff. Okay, all right. Okay. Okay, so somebody wanted to know if you can color clear resin with food coloring. Unfortunately, no. Food coloring does not do well in resin because it's got a lot of water in it. Resin does not like water. So in general, the colorants that are designed specifically for resin are going to be your best bet. That doesn't mean that I want to discourage you from trying other things like paints or eyeshadows, chalks. You know, I've used spices before. I mean, all that stuff is really good to try. What I will tell you is be sure to keep a journal of what you've done, because you'll, if you're anything like me, you know, you'll mix stuff up and then you'll go to demold it in a couple of days and you're like, huh, what did I do now? Or how did I mix this? Or I don't remember what I did. So I think it's, so it's important to keep a journal and just, and be, you know, be good about, you know, honest with what happened, and maybe it gives you some ideas on what to do differently next time or what to try differently, or do some different stuff. So anyway, don't be afraid to try. Some of your mistakes will be your best learning opportunities. So anyway, okay. All right, so I'm here for 4 more minutes. Let me see if I can get one more quick question. And then we can, then I got something to share with you. I got a couple things to share with you. Okay, I made some resin parts for my car, 100% correct mixture, but after 3 days, it is still sticky. What am I doing wrong? Okay. So when it comes to resin and hardener, the 2 parts, you mix them together, it heats up, the chemical reaction produces heat, and that heat is what causes the resin to cure. So I would say, it's been my experience that 75% of the time, when someone says they still have sticky resin, either the mixture wasn't mixed or wasn't measured accurately enough, and it wasn't mixed thoroughly. Okay, so assuming you have both of those done, then a couple other things to think about would be the temperature of your room. You know, most epoxies like low 70s Fahrenheit. It might be that you didn't mix enough. You have to have so much hardener and so much resin to mix together to produce enough heat for it to cure. And then it might be something you added to the resin. I mean, if you sometimes some of these, you know, you add colorants or you add you know, something else, and it keeps the reaction from happening the way it should. And so for that reason, that might be some reasons why your resin didn't cure. But we also have a troubleshooting section as well, and I'll put a link there too, so you guys can all enjoy. So, okay, all right, 2 more minutes. Okay, I've got something fun to share with you. Okay, so I'm checking my notes here. Okay, so a big announcement. For those of you who don't know, if you come and buy stuff at resinobsession.com, we have a rewards program, because I love that you guys can help fuel my passion for resin, and I want to pay it back to you guys in the form of rewards. And so we've had the rewards program, and it's done. I think customers really liked it. And so this week I added a couple of new rewards, including if you like this kind of setting here tonight, 2 of the rewards are a 15-minute face session with me or a 30-minute face session with me, okay? So if you like this and you want to talk more resin and it's just me and you one-on-one, those are rewards now for our rewards program. So you can hop on over to our site and the details are over there. Okay, all right, so here's, for those of you who've hung in here this evening, thanks so much, and here's what I have to share with you. So, was it last week? No, it was the week before last. I made some rainbow pendants that showed up on the blog, and I got a few questions about what's that powder. I really like that powder that you added in with the colors to get the rainbow stuff. That is the Resin Obsession Pearl Powder, and it can be mixed with transparent resin, and it gives this beautiful luminescent sparkle. And so, and it's to effect, so the more you add, the more sparkly and pearl you get and all that kind of stuff. So, okay, now this is important before I tell you the details, because this is important, because I realize some of you are going to be watching this later. This offer that I'm getting ready to tell you about is good until 11:59 p.m. tomorrow evening, Thursday, October 19th, 2017, okay? All right? So you can get a free pearl powder. All you have to do is pay the shipping, okay? All right, here's what you do. You go to shop.resinobsession.com and go to the colorant section, I'm going to do it right now. Make sure I'm telling you guys all the right things. Okay, so shop.resinobsession.com. Okay. If you look on the left-hand side of our store, you see a little tab that says colorants. Click on that. You want to click on the powder link. Okay. And in the second row down, third one across is the Resin Obsession Pearl Powder. Okay. So all you have to do is put it in your cart and use the code CANDY, okay, C-A-N-D-Y. And all you have to do then is pay shipping on that pearl powder. You got a pearl powder for free. Just you pay to have it shipped to you. So anyway, that's my way of saying thank you for coming tonight. Glad we could hang out. Glad we could talk resin. I wish I could have gotten to everybody's questions this evening. My goodness, we could have a little marathon on all these questions, but let's do it again sometime, okay? All right, so if you're watching this later, this will be recorded, so if you're watching it later and you have questions, especially if you're on Facebook, leave them as a part of the comments, and I will do my best to get them answered. And just a reminder, free pearl powder through October 19th, 2017, 11:59 p.m. Eastern. Use code CANDY, okay? And all you got to do is pay the shipping. So anyway, all right, everyone, thanks so much for joining me this evening. And if you haven't already, follow us on our social media stuff. We got some cool things coming up. So we hope to see you around here again soon. Okay, bye, everyone. See ya.